Gayat with becoming. So how does poetry enter one's life? So for me, poetry was the first literary form that allowed me to express something on the page. So I wrote in journals but when something needed to become literature, it came out as poetry. And maybe that has to do with trauma, maybe it has to do with us as human beings and how we have always used poetry in short forms to tell stories, to preserve culture and educate the young and carry memory. So I want to ask you, how did poetry enter your life? And when did you understand that poetry was not just something you were doing, but something that would shape who you are?
Mhm. Uh, I'm obsessed with poetry. So sometimes I feel that there's something wrong with me because, like, I do uh, poetry in a way that I think there's something psychopathic about it. That I remember I was in San Francisco going in the night and like I carved one of my poems about Berlin and I was put it on the walls and like this. I did throw poetry in post of foreigners I don't know many time. You remember I did gallery
So
like
so you were doing graffiti or what?
no, I did exhibition at the Diade Gallery for like you remember
Yeah,
the
that one. Yeah, I was talking
an
about
exhibition
censorship.
of poetry. It was a crazy idea. So and because I don't do other things, so I don't like work officially. So yeah, I felt that my life is surrounded by this thing that it's poetry. But in fact, it's also more problematic. And why I use the word psychopathic because like I do only poetry, but officially I don't even do that because like I am very slow writer. I write like one book every 7 years, and it's have only a couple of thousands of words, maybe 5,000 words. And if you cut that words in 2,500 days, which is like 7 years, you officially got like I write 1 or 2 words per day. That officially I do nothing.
Yeah, we're gonna get into the obsession part as well.
Yeah, in like this. But I want to say that uh, the poetry represent for me like some kind of beauty, but it's a broken beauty, like the faces I like in the features of people. I like when there is something like side different than side in the faces, and for me, poetry is a beauty, but it's always broken or disturbed. I
Mhm.
don't know how to describe this, Luby, but it's not something that confer converts people. It's a rough beauty. It's like my poetry always ended in the shape of nightmares, or as they say in English, in the form of nightmares.
Mhm.
And I am obsessed with trying to understand the world through poetry and rebuild the world through poetry.
Mhm.
So when I was young, it began as a joke that I want to write this poem. Not a joke, but I fall in love. I was 15, 14, 15. And this young girl, she was like very playful. Uh, and I lost. She chose somebody else, and we were like, yeah, teenagers. But then I wrote for her a poem, and it worked.
You got our
And
back.
yeah, but that was the moment changed my life because I understand that it worked. So and I didn't understand the power of the language, the power of words.
Hmm.
And from that moment, I understand that there's a like I can affect people with words.
Hmm.
And sometimes I use it in a bad way, of course.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
so
yeah.
yeah,
But I understand. I have the ability to say the same things we say, but I
yeah.
reveal them in a different way. So and here after 30 years, I'm a poet. It's all began to write a love poem.
Yeah.
I'm still trying to write love poetry. So I'm obsessed with poetry itself. And but also when I'm trying to write these love poems, uh, somehow wars and exile and violence and history keep entering the page because it's the memory. You know, we use our memories and experience.
Mm-hmm.
And the art reflect reality.
Mm-hmm.
And this probably says something about the reality we live in. It look like um, I'm not obsessed in political subject, but there's some kind of human questions like simple, like love and loss and memory, and even death. You find that are so connected to politics and to belonging. And our friendship is like fragile in a way.
Mm-hmm.
Our relation as humans is fragile, and because that I feel like my life shaped by coincidence. I don't know
Interesting.
how to say this.
Um,
I really don't write political poetry. I did tell you this before,
yeah,
maybe.
your poetry is always about love, but it ends up being about more than that. But of
Yeah,
course, they're all
and
connected.
when they say it's political, I have nothing against political. I'm a
Yeah.
political in every sense. Everything is political, from gender to class to the central bank to our background to feminism to patriarchy. But when they say it, they provoke me because like they say it in a way that they try to category, especially people from Globe South, like you
Mhm.
know. And I say for them, no, 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 no. This is not politics. This is my life. I'm writing about my life. Something wrong in my life. Every poem in the world is a political poem, and but don't try to categorize me.
Yeah.
But if I want to be honest, every single poem in this planet is a political, but they clean it. And poets, they develop methods to edit their poems to be published in New Yorkers and all these things. So they clean it, and many of the American poets I met, they became very professional. They have this self censor, so they don't even need to edit their poems and take the politics from it anyway. They become professional. They can write immediately a poem, didn't touch anything, and like didn't provoke anything, and they got all the prizes, and they are welcomed in every festival, and they got every residency and like this because they never touch anything.
Yeah, they
So
sanitized it. Yeah. I know what you mean.
yes, so from that perspective, I don't know. And also being labeled political is not a description of the work itself, but it's like
Mm.
it's shifting the attention away from the reality that the work emerged from. Like try to shift the reality that I am being Palestinian
Yeah. Yeah.
or
I think it
Syrian or immigrant or Arab or Muslims or refugees or all these things together.
I think as you touched on it, people from the global south are just not from the West. A lot of times they see our background and do not pay attention to the content of our work. So that
Mm,
always comes into play when we're talking, when we're doing our poetry. You touched a little bit about, becoming a poet, like the construction of a life. So I
mm,
ask this because, your poetry does not feel like someone improving from one year to the next in a simple way. It
mm.
feels timeless and also completely of this time. So it feels like something that comes from a much larger place than career success or literary development. So I always
Mm.
wonder, like, how was this life built? On the micro scale, did you have other jobs? Did you ever imagine another path, or was this very clear, very early in this life? And what was happening around you when, poetry started becoming not only your work, but the center of how you live? Like, how did people respond to that around you? And also, how did you respond to that yourself?
Wow, yeah, I don't know, like I don't know how to say this, but I will be really trying my best to describe my feelings and to be frank. So in the in the tradition, like in how the society see, I am a loser. like in the rules we have how you should behave and how you what you should own and like this. I am actually not a loser. I'm the loser. I am the loser. So like I'm a person who lost two countries, Palestine and Syria, not integrated in any place, don't have roots, I don't own house, I don't have money in the bank, I don't have a family, I don't have children. I really have nothing. But from my perspective, it's totally different story. I do the things I love. I'm really successful in achieve all the things I was planning to, and I live as a poet, exactly like it's written in the Quran. ألم ترى أنهم في كل واد يهيمون. In the section of the poets in the Quran say, don't you see that they are traveling everywhere? That's it. I was fascinated by that part of the Quran from the beginning. I write poetry, I travel. I don't have children who cry to force me to change anything. I'm stubborn. And even after the cancellation, and when I lost two-thirds of my income after the 7th October, people say for me, maybe you should work. And I was like insulted by this. I say, me? Like Israel will force me to work? No. Like this will never, like another, like they destroyed the country and killed the Palestinians, and they want to force me to work outside, like going far off from my dreams. So no. And yeah, so from this perspective, I don't know, but my life itself was built from these interruptions. Everyone in my family, if you go back, was part of this cut. Like my grandfather died in a refugee camp because they took Ashkelon and they throw the family in Gaza Strip. That was 1948 in the Nakba. Then my father, when he became 18, they occupied Gaza and they led him outside Gaza to Egypt, where he ended in Syria. Also, his life was cut. I was born in exile in the Yarmouk refugee camp in Syria, and then I fled to another exile. Nothing followed after that have a straight line for me. If there's a structure in my life, it's built from fragments. I often think like I began to mix it with literature. Like in my brain, it became really mixed. Like I began to think that we build our poetry or we construct our lives in the same way poets construct their poems. And if you look to my poems, they have a lot of edit. I take part here, part there. I took part to another poem, and like this. I think that life and literature they mixed in a way in my brain. Uh, I always also think that the contradiction and the irony is. I discovered lately that this is that when you use irony or contradiction or black humor, I began to understand that this is like survival tools that I thought everyone used that. I didn't understand that they were like something wrong in the way I see the world because the moment I born, I have no borders and no country and no flag and I didn't belong to place. And I was using these methods. I thought that this is how it is, but it's appeared no, that no other people, they have a stable life. Many people didn't change even their address. So, so yeah, this sometimes the things destroyed. I mean that like these destroyed plans became the reason for our existence. So, if
Mhm.
my father had not been thrown outside Palestine, he will not meet my mother in Syria, and I will not be exist. So, life is not something we design; it's something we rebuild from ruins. At
I
least, at least this is how I see it. And if you think about my poetry, and people they say, "Oh, you write about war," and like, but officially, no. I sometimes I search for war in my poetry. I didn't find it.
I mean, what you're saying is for me, I think living a linear life or linearity in general is really a concept of the West, you know? And
Mm,
yeah, m most of the rest of the world is living in fragments, as you're saying, and they kind of cobble life that way, not only life, but also stories, poetry, etc. Um,
mm,
Freedom is something I've been thinking, about for most of my life. I was a young Somali girl and I was very aware of the limits that culture and family and
mm,
expectation could place on a person's life long before I had the language for it. I was already thinking about freedom and what it would mean to build a life on my own terms. So I've written my stories and poetry alongside my jobs and institutions and responsibilities, and all the things that most of us have to do to survive. And sometimes when I'm sitting in my job or working inside structures, I think about your life. You
mm.
move through the world as a poet, you meet people, you go to exhibitions, you travel, you read, you think, you write, and you're not living inside the same structure of work that most people are forced into. But this also does not feel like laziness or escape. To me, it feels like devotion, like your life is built around poetry in a way that is very rare. So,
Mm.
what does freedom mean to you? Is freedom something you created, or was it something you were born with?
Wow, this is a really difficult question because I born in the most classic dictatorship in the world. It's Syria. It's the like there were a lot of dictatorship in history, like from Don Trujillo to Ceausescu to Saddam Hussein to Gaddafi to Joseph Stalin to Syria is different. Like you make demonstration, they shoot you. In Syria, you make demonstration, they bomb your city. It's like another level. Like everyone I know is killed by Assad. So I grow up in that what we call Mamlakat al-Samt, the kingdom of silence. It's Syria. It's the classic. It's like you say one word, your family, your cousins disappear. You are suspicious about everyone around you. Your mother could be the spy, your friend. Every friend, every small group of friends, they have one spy. If they didn't have, the security will send one. So you should be always suspicious. You develop a sense of being very clever. Like Syrian people is one of the most clever people. They could understand you if they look to you because they were living in this fear, and the compass of their fear, it's really working very well. So when I am questioned in airport and like this, it became like a funny or like a joke. I grew up in Syria, and then they ask you in airport like simple low IQ questions, and yeah, I don't know. What I want to say, freedom is probably the most beautiful thing I ever experienced. When I left Syria in 2008, I exchanged the dictatorship for exile. And exile itself is a painful because you are outside your roots, you're outside your safe environment. But it came with freedom for the person who came from Syria. For the first time in my life, I was able to write and speak and express myself without the fear of disappearing in a prison or killed under torture. But the freedom itself, especially the freedom we care about as a writers and artists, like the freedom of expression and freedom of thinking, to be able to speak and like this, uh, it's uh, it's a fragile. Even in the Western world, in Europe or in democracies, uh, living in this our time now taught me that freedom must constantly be defended, because democracies can also become uh, a place where voices are silenced and erased and cancelled, as I experience here in Germany and some part of the Western world. Sometimes they can decide it in democracy which stories are welcome and which are not. Uh, for me, the freedom is not the comfort, is the possibility of disagree. It is the right to criticize power without the fear, to ask difficult questions. I mean, difficult questions without having this Protestant situation, the Lutheran situation, where when you ask a provoking question, everyone became silent.
Mm.
Even in a dinner, then they continue eating, and then you are not friend anymore. I prefer the Catholic way when they say, yo, I disagree with you, but you still friend. With this European North, European silence, it's so heavy. Like, I don't know how these people really think that they are free and they have democracy, which is, yeah, yeah, of course, democracy is exchanging power in peaceful way by election. That's of course, but like freedom is the main thing of for art. Poetry become impossible without freedom,
It
and,
would
and
be,
any kind of art became impossible. And
yeah. It
I
would
don't know how
become
they say.
it would become propaganda, right? I mean,
Yeah,
if
but the problem, they have democracy and they have freedom. And I can't deny this, but it's like we are not included. It's like a parallel.
Mm,
They succeed also in the 30s to make this, to keep their to keep the rights for one group of people and take it from others.
mm,
And I don't know how they were able to do this now, because when totalitarianism, when dictatorship, when fascist regimes, when Nazis, Third Reich, are able to silence and take the rights of a group of people, that for me is not, I don't want to say is accepted, but it's predictable. This is what you expect from this kind of regime. But how they were able to do this in democracy, how they were able to develop methods to silence person in a free society. Like
but you know,
how we arrive to a moment that we have around 500 cancellation in Germany. This is only the documented one. In a free society,
mm,
how we arrived that every Palestinian voice was cancelled and censored and erased in Germany. Every theater, they close Ayun, every event, every book, every like, how this possible? How the House for Poesy, the House for Poetry, was the first organization in Germany to cancel person, was me, on the 12th of October, even one day before the Frankfurt Book Fair cancel Adaniya Shibli in the 13th of October 2023. How we arrived to this,
mm,
even how these people are still on their position in the House for Poetry. You know, poetry in Arabic, شعر came from شعور. شعر is poetry and شعور is feeling. How these people even have feelings, and to silence a person who didn't say anything? Like, if you think about this and the freedom, I always say my cancellation was one of the most dangerous one. Because if we think about cancellation of many people, they were cancelled because they say something, they make statements, or their books have something problematic. But I made an anthology of Arabic poets, Arabic from all the region who live in Europe, have nothing, mostly nothing political, no Palestine. I didn't even mention anything. I didn't make any statements in these 5 days between the 7th of October and the 12th, but they canceled me. And I say it's the most dangerous one. It is because they cancel me because of my identity. And this is what is dangerous about Germany, that they were canceling people before about their identities,
mm,
not because something wrong they did. And if you think now, House for Poesy is a place where the cancellation began. It is the poetry. So the first cancellation happened in Germany, happened not from a political organization, not from the Bundestag, not from the right wings. It's happened from the place of poetry. And this has made me rethink about poetry itself and power. It made me rethink why we were having writing poetry all these 5,000 years until now to arrive to this moment to to uh, to cancel a poet. Are they are happy now
Mm,
because I'm not included in anything?
mm,
Do they satisfied? Do they got orgasm? Maybe
mm.
they are like
You
uh,
know,
they
Gayat,
are flying in the nirvana. Now think
yeah,
about it.
yeah, I know. We
Think
talk
about it.
about this extensively, me and you.
Yeah. So I think I think when they put me in this situation, I'm speaking about the whole German society and then the Western and then the rest of the world. And you take me as example for everyone who who was touching the wound or speak truth to power or say it as you want. When they put me in this situation and I was not able to write for 2 years because I find myself in a position in between existential crisis because I lost most of the things I believe in. I left Syria and the dictatorship for freedom. And then I have been, when I am in the freedom, I'm cancelled and silenced, and I lost many friends and everything. Between this existential crisis and between personal emotional burnout because of my family in Gaza and my family in Syria. And I lost hundreds in Gaza, maybe more than 400 cousins. It looked like a lie, the number. But if I was in this position in the middle between this emotional crisis and the existential crisis, and I was not able to write poetry anymore, and it is the only thing I do. So I was not exist for 2 years.
Wow.
I was not able even to understand uh, how this could happen even,
Mm,
and what is the motivation
mm,
behind this behaving. Actually, my Jewish friends, they understand a lot of things about their ancestors. And because they were asking themselves all the time, how Germany was able to do this? And after the 7th of October, most of them, they told me, yeah, now we understand.
mm. Um, you said several things. I think having freedom in the West is a myth. I mean, and I think that, what you said about freedom having to be constantly defended is very, very true.
Mm,
Um, but yeah, so but then the other side of freedom is this cost of freedom, which is loneliness, and I've
yeah,
always felt I myself have always felt outside of things in some way, as a migrant or a Somali woman or as a writer. I can enter spaces and I can work inside them and I can understand them, but I also know what it means to stand at the edge. So with you, I wonder if poetry creates another kind of outside. You're like deeply inside the world because you observe people and cultures and violence and politics, but at the same time, your life is so different from how most people live. So what parts of being a poet are impossible for you to explain to people who are not poets? And do you think poetry brings you closer to people, or does it also separate you from them?
oh, Luby, you are really good in making questions. What we supposed to from where, as we say, like from where I should answer this question. Loneliness is something, yeah, all of us, the Homo sapien. Oh, okay, maybe 200,000 years ago, we were jumping on the trees as a monkeys and we lived together, of course. But from the Homo erectus time, from the moment the tool maker began to make these beautiful tools, I was imagine that when he making the stone, he was taking a side alone, and yeah, I have that. So it's ended with Neanderthal and us of Homo sapiens. So and then we created the cities, and I always imagine the city as a concentration camp of loneliness people who live together in the same place. And I always I felt like Also, the loneliness is always been part of exile, you know. Uh, when you lose countries and languages began to replace geography. As Adorno say, for a man who no longer have a homeland, writing become a place to live. So this, when the language replaces geography, you learn to carry your home inside your memory because memory it's described in languages in poetry. And this is dangerous because memory itself is a lonely place because when you remember alone. So now I remember Damascus, which is not exist anymore. Damascus, the one we know, but it exists in the people who saw it before the war. But we have different images about it. So we have many versions, and all of us we will die. And then Damascus, the one we know, is not exist, and the one we save in our memories is different from different perspective, and then it will disappear. We could save it by literature, but mostly it's fake because it's rely on and the way we see the things. Oh, loneliness, mamma
I mean,
mia.
it's a reinterpretation, right? I think
Yes.
it's interesting that you said lone memory is you do it alone, you know?
Yeah.
And when also older people die, like you were saying, all the knowledge and all the memory goes with them, It's the same as
Mm,
like when you've been in a relationship for a long time and you separate, they take half of your memories with you,
mm.
They're
But it's not
magnets.
negative. It's not
Yeah, it's
negative
not,
to
not
that.
it's not
Yeah.
negative, but that memory,
Yeah.
that other half of you is gone, you have no longer
Mm.
access to it. Um, but yeah, and loneliness and exile go hand in hand, It's freedom is lonely.
Literature is also very like it's a place of loneliness.
Mhm.
Uh, because through books and poems and also through the friendships we have and love we discover we discover that our loneliness is shared. We share through poetry our loneliness. Because I belong to my friends and to the people I love and to some certain cities. And so I don't know. I
Yeah.
don't think poetry will solve the loneliness, but it keeps the company with other lonely souls. I don't know.
I mean,
Yeah.
I always love that line that you always said, what you just said right now, which is, I belong to the things that I love. I think this is really beautiful. So I think now I want to ask you about time,
Mm,
just this past Sunday, I did a writing class and we were talking about time and the construct of it. And one of
mm,
the participants said that when she thinks of time, she thinks of stress. And I understood this exactly what she meant, especially here in Germany because time here can feel like pressure and control and discipline and productivity. But poetry works differently. For you or for others, a poem can take a year, a line can take months. And I wonder how you live with time when your work requires this kind of slowness. Like it's like, what is your concept of time? And does poetry give you another relationship to time?
mm. Ooh. Yeah, I don't know. Like displaced people, uh, they think a lot about past. Uh, Actually, the past, it's never really past for the people who taken outside their roots. So the past remains active. Uh, like, uh, like if I think about my grandmother's stories, who she told to my father, because I never met her, because when they throw my father the second time in 1967, they throw him alone and they left my grandmother in Gaza, which she died in 2012. I never met her, but I heard her stories through my father. So, like my grandmother stories, they remain active. So they are not the past, and this prove also that Einstein was right, even if I can't describe for you now how Einstein was right, but he was. And then my father memories of Palestine, and then Damascus before the destruction for me. These things continue to exist inside my present. At the same time, the future is uncertain. So we often find ourselves living between memory and our expectation of what will happen. And I see the future as the memories that I will soon remember. So in this trip inside the time, and it's similar to the trip you got when you are high by drugs. Poetry allows different times to exist together. So you could, as Mahmoud Darwish, he rebuilt Beirut when Ariel Sharon was bombing it with 255,000 kilo, 255,000 ton of TNT, which is 255 million kilo of TNT in 1982. And Mahmoud Darwish, he rebuilt the city, a building here, a tree there, a window here. The dead can speak. The child and the old man can share the same page in the book. And a destroyed city can remain alive or could be reconstructed or rebuilt in imaginary world. I think, or maybe I'm not sure that poetry is simply another way of resisting time because the Arabs are able to access to old poetry, not like other nations and languages. We can access to any poem, even if it's for 15, 1600 years ago. And the only way to know it's written in that time, it's from the context. And maybe I should say something about this. Yeah. So in Arabic, the Arabic language, in Islam, you must pray in Arabic. If you are a Chinese Muslim or Indonesian or Turkish or Nigerian, you must pray in Arabic. It's not like Christianity or other religion where you could use translation. And for Arabs to be able to pray and to be able to read the Quran, they guaranteed that language didn't change to be able to pray. So you add more words, but the language is the same. So we find ourselves a nation, we can access any poem, not like in Holland, you can't read a poem written 250 years ago because language is changed. None of the English can read Shakespeare in the old version of it. So this access to the poetry make our relation with time totally different. And it's began to feel for me that there is something contemporary and something classic in every time. So for me, Abu Nawas is a modern because he was modern in his time. Shakespeare is a modern because he was modern in his time. There is other poets try to mimic Abu Nawas or Shakespeare. They are classic because they were not inventing something new. They were mimicking other people's. So for me, as a person who able to read poetry in the last 1800 years, I can, time is not important. I can see Imru al-Qais before Islam is a modern, Jarir after Islam is modern, Abu Tamam and Mutanabbi in the Abbasi time is modern until we arrive now. And there's the classics. So the time is became like a puzzle for me. And because I am a realistic poet and I try to avoid sentimental things as much I can, it's became like a schizophrenic situation to understand where is reality and where is fiction. And then if you put them together and put them on the paper and edit it, you could even arrive to an eternal text, if we can say this. That text could be, yeah. I hope they will survive. We never know.
You know, I've known you for a while, and I always say you're like a savant with numbers. And now I'm wondering if this has a lot to do with time for you. I mean, you said it doesn't matter, but you don't worry about time, but the way you can actually chart time through your, I say he's a savant because he's literally knows all the numbers, anything to do with numbers, and also he can recall history with exactly how many people, whatever measurements, and
Yeah,
it
but
just
also
dawned on me.
yeah, it's a very problematic. I was suspicious that I am autistic, but then I checked it's not. And then I say maybe it's ADHD, and I checked and it's not. So now we should face this problem. I know a lot of things I don't need to know, but I'm not
But
autistic.
why?
I'm
That's
not
the thing. I think it has a lot to do with
Yeah,
something.
they call it intellectual. I don't
Oh,
know. Maybe I don't know. But yeah, I know a lot of information that I don't need, I didn't need. Like,
I think you have a lot of information that you do need too, obsessively even, which brings me to obsession.
yeah.
So can we call it a obsession when it takes you like a year to write a poem or 7 years, as you said? And I don't mean obsession like negatively, I mean it the kind that you use where you are with attention and precision and
Mm.
devotion that most people cannot sustain. So to me, I want to know what is happening when you return to one poem again and again, and do you think a poet needs obsession?
I think yes. Yeah. So the first answer, yeah, I think, but it is also related to how I do the things. So I can say poetry from my childhood. I can say it like with rhyming and all these classic sonnets at any time. It's the most easy thing for me. So I born as what we call this. I don't know. They have name for these people. Yeah, but then when I publish my poetry, I do the opposite. I keep saying this rhyming poetry for me and my friends, and sometimes we play them with oud and we make music. I don't publish them. What I publish in the book is something totally different. It's something I edited and rewrite it a lot, and it's simply like this. Can I say how I write?
Of course, that's what we're here
Yeah,
for.
because it's a really good one if you use it. So you bring a paper or anything, or like, and you began to write. You sit and you began to write. Of course, if you will wait for the words to come, they will not. So you began to write. You began to describe what is on the table. You say, "I am on the table, and there is a Zoom call. I'm making interview," and you began to write. Don't stop. After a couple of lines, maybe 7, 8, 9, I don't know, everyone different, then the unconscious brain began to enter slowly, slowly, and then you began to write something else. You finish your text, you check where is the conscious was, you delete it, and then you have a text. You save it and put it somewhere as if you make a juice of a grape and now you will ferment it to have a wine. So you leave it, and the day after you begin to work in another text. When that is fermented, I don't know, for you 1 week, 2 weeks, 1 month, you open it, you read it, you don't remember anything, and then you begin to do two things: editing and erasing. So editing, you began with editing, you began to take, oh, this part, it should be here. Cut, paste. This part should be up, this line here, this line take away. And then, oh, this part, it didn't belong to this poem, but it belonged to that poem. But because our brain is working in the same time in many projects. So you cut that part and put it in the poem that in the other file. And this part to the other. And then you find part, they didn't belong to this poem and didn't belong to the other poem. So you put them in a new file for another poem, you will work on it. So you finish the editing. You leave the text for fermenting. When you come back, you make erasing. And erasing is really great because it's have destruction. It's joyful. Because here, every part you will take away, you will put it in the trash and delete it. It's not exist anymore. There is no way to go back to it. So sometimes you lose most of the text. It's okay because this part didn't have a quality. All your brain will work on them in a different way. When you finish the erasing and then you leave the text and you come back to it to make something what I call rewriting, and this is endless. You can rewrite and the text became bigger and bigger and bigger, could arrive to 10 pages, and then you make editing and erasing again, and then it shrink to 5 pages, and then until you are tired and you have no more energy, and like this, you close it and you come back to do one thing, editing.
Yeah, this sounds like obsession for sure.
Yeah, so
Love it.
deleting, erasing, rewriting, editing.
Yes,
And
there's
then
a couple things.
you send it to your friends that you trust.
There's a couple things that you said there, like you delete the conscious, which I found really brilliant, and then
Yeah, yeah,
you're editing the unconscious, but then you also delete the unconscious as well. When I teach my classes,
yeah, yeah.
I do the same thing. So I tell people we always do free writing, but I actually do that for when I want to write my own work, which is just dumping, get it all out. Literally, like I don't know what to write, I don't know what to write, as you're
Yeah.
describing, and then, but you found the words for it. Then the unconscious comes in, but I also work slightly different. But that's incredibly
Yeah,
fast.
but try my method. Give it a try.
Yeah,
It's
I'm
really
gonna try
nice.
that because I don't do this fragment thing. But there's
But I ran away from your question about obsession, no?
no, you literally, I think you showed, you literally demonstrated what your obsession is. But I want to talk also about doubt.
Mm.
After all these years of writing and getting translated and publishing and being invited, being read, what still makes you doubt? And what kind of doubt belongs to the work? And what kind of doubt belongs to the life?
I don't know how to say that, but I doubt everything around me without being weird or like falling in conspiracy. I am really anti-conspiracy, really, like 100%. But I doubt the roots of knowledge. Because as Edward Said say, that knowledge is not innocent. And the way the world behave, uh, it show that you will be a loser if you don't doubt, you know. I once was reading about the first time they told Hannah Arendt about the Holocaust, and immediately she denied because it was bigger. It's for her was like a conspiracy. She was like, "What?" It's so big to the level. And then, of course, she understand that these people are speaking about a systematic things happen. But she doubted in the first moment they told her about the Holocaust because she is so genius and with high IQ and she's so clever that in certain things like this, it's as we say in Arabic, it's like more than imagination. You understand me? So this doubt is very important to to be to to be able to trust, because I trust doubt itself. I trust it more than certainty. And one reason I love poetry is that allows uncertainty to exist, because uh, the poem does not have to solve contradiction. The poetry can carry the contradiction, and I think, yeah, should we? Yeah, no. This is this through doubt. Like if we doubt everything, then we can trust the poet, because in a world there is in the world you don't doubt anything. then poetry is the only thing you should not trust because it's built on imagination and metaphor. But if you doubt everything, then you are able to trust poetry. And we not even we should trust poetry. We must trust the poetry, and we must trust the poet because the poet, not because the poet tell the truth, but because he admit uncertainty. In this world full of loud and confident voices, poetry hesitate, and that hesitation feels human. Also, poetry is Lubi, poetry is one of the few spaces where language is not owned by power. We still own like the power is the opposite. The power hate everything related to the poetry, and they didn't even take it serious. Like yeah, maybe I should tell you this. It's a dangerous things about poetry and power. In 2010, I was invited to participate in Stockholm International Poetry Festival. And the reading was in the Dramaten Theater in Stockholm. It's a big theater. It's connected to the royal family, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, we were some immigrants poets also participate. And then the youth of the racist party, which is somehow Nazi party, it's called Sveriges Demokrat, the Swedish Democrat. The youth of this party, they decided to stand outside the Dramatic Theater with a microphone and read the real poetry, which is like poetry from 1800s and 1700s. So these people, the right wings, you know, they never accept poetry. And when they catch the power, they cut fund from culture the first, and especially poetry. But then these young, stupid, low IQ people were standing outside in the cold weather, reading the great poetry. And I couldn't sleep in that night thinking like, oh my God, one day some shitty right wings from Palestine after 200 years will read my poetry as the great poetry because they are right wings. What the fuck is going on?
That's
You
hilarious.
understand? So I understand that these people like poetry, but you should die. And after 200 years, it's became the golden age. You know, never been a golden age for anything. You know, this circle I was reading a document, a paper from ancient Egypt. I think it's around 4,000 years old, or maybe 4,500 years old. Anyway, in that time, paper was everywhere and everyone can use it. And there is a man from the middle class. He's writing his diary. Like, yeah, it's so funny. I remember what he was saying in his paper. He says something like, "Oh my God, it's a terrible time. No respect anymore. This new generation." Yeah, I swear, he said this new generation, they didn't respect the old people. They only care about fashion and like really, it's written.
I
Yeah,
mean, that's it's like there's no such thing as history, right? You were
yeah,
talking about that
exactly. So
before.
yeah, so
It's
yeah,
not
so
static.
yeah, so it's a very problematic question. But poetry always, you will find that poetry always uh, is something misunderstood. I remember in Syria, if you say one word, you disappear. If you write article, you disappear. But you write poetry, they didn't give a shit. Yeah, they did. They don't have respect for us. Like you could do what you want. For them, it's a metaphor. It's not serious. Even for a classic dictatorship, poets are like something they, yeah, you understand? Why it is the opposite, but they are not able to got the thing.
That's
So I
fun.
don't know. Yeah, but
Um,
you know how it is. Luby, you yourself is a poet.
yes, but I like this conversation on doubt because it really condenses for me that, that doubt enables curiosity.
Mm,
And it's essential that we are curious to be artists, right?
yes.
Actually, to be human beings in general.
Yeah.
So, and I love the line that you said that I trust doubt more than uncertainty. That's yeah, very interesting. So we talked a lot about the past and the history, and but I'm also thinking, at least for myself, these days, I've been thinking a lot about like alternate versions of myself. You know, the
Mm.
other lives I could have lived in other countries, other choices, other selves. And I'm wondering, do you ever think of that? Is there another version of Ghayath somewhere who did not become a poet? Or is that impossible to think? Is there another version of you in another life? And is he also doing this? Is he also writing poetry?
Wow. Okay. So I don't know if I was like definitely if I'm not a poet. Let's begin from this perspective. If I'm not a poet, definitely I'm a chef, like a cooking. Yeah.
Yeah, we said that one time that you would become a chef. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I love cooking. It's very poetic. But no guarantee because also cooking is disturbed by capitalism. You know, capitalism is not something itself bad. It's a system. It's a system where we, as a human, eat each other. So we are the bad ones. No, yeah, but yeah, but but let's imagine that there is a God. Then what I'm doing is a destiny. Like it is something I didn't choose. Anyway, that make me little more relaxed. Yeah. I always feel that I am a believer and I introduce myself as a real believer. You know, and yeah, how problematic to be a believer in and a secular because I'm a very secular person. Yeah. So if there's a God, so poetry is a destiny. It's something, or as we say, qadar in Arabic. Like, yeah, it's meant. It's written for me from the God to be. But if there is no God, so I think I was very lucky to be a poet. I don't know.
So you haven't thought about this.
No, I do actually, I do, because I told you this feeling of being a loser. It's a genuine. Uh, you know, also I'm suspicious about my poetry itself because I'm keeping saying I only do poetry, but is this poetry I write have a value from the beginning? Like, who decided that? How we can judge the things? Take us back to the doubt because the doubt is the things make us continue doing what we do. You can't be a free soul, liberated person in a liberated city like Berlin without having doubting everything. And in the value of the things we do, is it limited for a short period? Uh, you know, because art is a way of eternity, because of our fear from death, we know that we are going in a direct trip to our graves from the moment you born, and we are in a straight line to our grave, and we know that eternity is not exist in a believer sense. It's only for God, and for from atheist perspective, nothing. So the only way is to continue is by art, to leave something behind you. Not only by art, but the art is one of the main things.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah, I'm confused how to answer this, but because I was not expecting to to speak about this subject and share my opinions, but I'm sure I'm sure maybe I will be a bad person in another life who like could be Zionist. No, I'm kidding. No, no, I want to say that Zionists are
I think you should think about it. Next time I see you, you can have an answer from you.
no,
What about,
definitely in every life I will reborn. I could be any shitty things, but not Zionist.
mm,
That's guaranteed.
yeah, I
Yeah,
bet. Um,
yeah,
how important is trust for you as a poet?
yeah.
Does it
Trust
play a
in
role at all?
yeah, yeah. It do. But like also trust in what? Like to the trust is a foggy word. Like what is what is it like sh to trust to trust another human or to trust the text itself, which is a relation from one perspective.
Well, we don't trust the text, right? I mean, doubt is playing a large role in that. But I guess as your life as a poet, because you're
Mm.
so untethered from most people in a different, but at the same time, you're very close, but at the same time, you're also removed, which is necessary, I think, to do the work that you do.
I lost the trust in everything.
Mm.
Like, what it's mean for a poet who live from his writing and his poetry to now hardly uh, make income to pay the rent of his apartment. Why? The question is why? Why I'm supposed to live this life? Why I'm supposed to be in this toxic world from the beginning? There is a people killed the Jewish because they were anti-Semitic and racist. The Jewish took my land. I born without land, and these people now try to punish me for what their ancestor did. Like your grandfather was with SS and Gestapo. You were killing the Jews. Why you punish me now? I didn't got it. Like you punish the Jewish and now trying to punish me. This toxic situation, I can't handle it.
Mm.
I can't handle that even the pro-Palestine organization and festival and association and grants and scholarship try to avoid Palestinian because they don't want to lose fund. This is a very toxic situation. I grow up in a dictatorship, and I know where where the compass show. Like in Syria, if you say something against Al-Ba'ath Party, nothing will happen. If you mention Assad family, it's death. So the compass, it's always go towards Assad family. The same in many places. Like if you say something about the Communist Party in Joseph Stalin time, nobody even care. If you mention Stalin, that is death. So the power is not with the parties, with Joseph Stalin. And in Germany, I can mention anything, but I can't mention Israel. So from my classic perspective, as I learned in Syria, I know where the compass show, but it have no logic. In Syria, I understand it. I understand that you fear Assad, but why you are German and fearing Israel? I didn't got it. I really don't got it. I don't understand all this way of selective guilt. Like you are German, you killed 28 million Russian, 28 million, like 18 million of them were women and children. Why you don't have any guilt or shame?
Mhm.
Like you put in the concentration camp 500,000 Roma and you kill them with gas chambers. Why you beating them in the street and you don't have
I think to
shame
me
and
this,
guilt? And why when I speak anything, you told me, oh, it's complicated, our guilt and shame. Like why you are selective, but why you didn't feel anything for the Russian?
I
So
think that
I can't handle this hypocrisy. I am an honest person. My love for my Jewish friend is a genuine. It's not built on guilt and shame and all this selective. You understand me? So I can't understand this hypocrisy. And I know these people, I know deeply inside my heart after discussion with them that they are really anti-Semitic. They are either fellow Semitic or they didn't understand. I met people who defend Israel, but they still believe in the classic anti-Semitic methods, like their grandparents who were in Gestapo and SS. They believe that Jewish controlling the world. And because that they want to be friends with them. And I told them, no, Jews don't control anything. You are anti-Semitic, like your grandparents. Even if you pro-Israel, even if you send money to Israel, even if you silence Palestinian, you are classic anti-Semitic. So this toxic situation, I couldn't handle.
Mm.
It's not my environment. It's not my place. But Berlin, I love. And
Mm.
you know, this relation with the cosmopolitan multicultural diversity here and being in Berlin, you are not in Germany and you are surrounded by artists from all over the world. We fight together and do things. So in this toxic situation, I I decided to stay.
Yeah.
In a way.
I think the way we know guilt and shame, maybe most of the rest of the world knows guilt and shame, is not the same here. At least that's what I've gathered. That the guilt and shame, or the understanding of guilt and shame here, is a different kind, or it's unrecognizable to the rest of us.
I think it's selective. I think it's they. Some people I met, they really have shame and guilt, but not for the Russian, not for the 18 million women and child in Russia at all. So
So that's
it's a selective. It's a selective.
selective.
You know, selective shame is not real shame. It's like yeah, it's because
Exactly.
you have no justice.
But
Because it means some people have value, some people not. Like some people dehumanize enough to not be accepted as even having any value.
Mhm.
Hmm. But also it's an interesting to understand how the humans are biased and uh, shitty.
But the guilt and shame here is a mutation, because of everything that's happened. At least that's how I see it.
Actually, they deserve this situation. I'm happy for them that they are suffering from this shit.
So let's talk about cost, because that's
Mm,
what this whole evening is about. We talked
mm,
about freedom and loneliness, time,
mm.
obsession, doubt, and all the things poetry has given you over the years.
Yeah.
But if you had to name it, what has been the greatest cost? And I'm not talking about like the hardest moment or the biggest sacrifice, but the thing
Mm.
that poetry has asked of you again and again throughout your life.
Oh, yeah. You know, we are like the Arabs, like they have this strange relation with poetry. The poet itself is, before Islam, when a tribe got a poet, when the child began to say poetry, they make this huge celebration and like this. And the best person who could say poetry is the king of the family. It's like it's not about power and money. Uh, the Arabs, they choose the leader of the tribe, who's the best speaker and who make the best speech and best poetry. So our relation with poetry is very genuine. And in the Quran itself, when they mention Muhammad, because he came with this Quran, the Arabs were shocked by this language and they began to doubt, like, like we hear a lot of poetry. What is this? Like, so some people say it's from the God, some people say like magic, some people say, you understand me. And in the Quran, it's repeated a lot of time with these three words that Muhammad is not a poet. Muhammad is not a magician. And Muhammad is not crazy. And to repeat these three words all the time, so you understand that craziness and being prophet and magician is connected to each other in a way. So from that perspective, if you are a poet, you are one of three. You are a prophet in the meaning that you could tell what will happen, or you could be a magician, or you could be insane, or two of them, or the three together. But the power of poetry that as I told you before, that poetry, I remember I told you this in an interview, that poetry will not, it will not be able to change the world, but poetry is able to change individuals who are later in a position they could change the world, they could make a move that change the world. Poetry cannot stop war. It cannot save lives in a direct way, but it can refuse the logic of violence. Because, violence simplifies and poetry complicates. Violence dehumanizes and poetry insists in individuality. It's, uh, it's make the names of the people, not their numbers. And all of us are a victim in a way or another, but when someone is reduced only to be a victim, they disappear as a person. So poetry tries to bring that person back, not as a simple, but as a complex human being. Uh, like through poetry, I find myself, how I find myself able to say the things as we call them in English in between the lines. And they are more important than the lines itself. So
Yeah.
I don't, also your question is I can answer this question forever, and every time I can give you totally different perspective, because do like for example now I'm thinking about this lately a lot, and I was speaking with a friend of me, she's a photographer, and she says something in a voice message a couple of days ago. She say, for me, do we need to be direct anymore after all what happened after the 7th of October and the genocide in Gaza? We were direct and speaking about how the world is doing and like this, but now everything's clear. Like, like no need anymore to like maybe we should rewrite the things in a different way. You understand? So I don't know. Can you ask me the same question in a different perspective so I can answer you again?
No, I actually like this question, and I'm sure we'll have more conversations, so I'll keep asking you so to see your different perspectives. So Michaela from the audience would love it if you read a poem, and I think we can do that. And I think the good one you should read is How I Became, because then I can also read the English translation for you.
You have the English with you?
Adrenaline, right?
Yes, it's from Adrenaline, and I think it is
I'm gonna go grab your book right now.
in page number 7. Okay, I wrote this poem in 2012 in Cairo. I was waiting for my Slovenian translator, and nobody arrived in Cairo. It's always traffic. So I wrote this poem, and when she arrived, I read it to her because she understands Arabic. Yeah. So how I became. You have it now?
But
Yes.
what page is it again? You said
Number 7 in Adrenaline. This is from my third Arabic book.
it's on page 7?
Yeah, in Adrenaline
Oh,
number
yes,
7.
yes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. كيف أصبحت؟ سقط حزنها من الشرفة وانكسر. أصبحت تحتاج إلى حزن جديد. حين رافقتها إلى السوق كانت أسعار الأحزان خيالية، فنصحتها أن تشتري حزنا مستعملا. وجدنا حزنا في حالة جيدة غير أنه واسع قليلا. كان كما أخبرنا البائع لشاعر شاب انتحر في الصيف الماضي. أعجبها الحزن وقررنا أخذه. اختلفنا مع البائع على السعر، فقال إنه سيعطينا قلقا يعود إلى الستينيات كهدية مجانية إن اشترينا الحزن. وافقنا، وكنت فرحا بهذا القلق الذي لم يكن في الحسبان. أحست بفرحتي فقالت: هو لك. أخذت القلق في حقيبتي ومضينا. مساء تذكرت القلق، أخرجته من الحقيبة وقلبته. لقد كان بجودة عالية وبحالة جيدة رغم نصف قرن من الاستعمال. لابد أن البائع يجهل لابد أن البائع يجهل قيمته، وإلا ما كان ليعطيناه مقابل شراء حزن رديء لشاعر شاب. أكثر ما أفرحني به هو أنه قلق وجودي مشغول بحرفية عالية وفيه تفاصيل غاية في الدقة والجمال. لا بد أنه يعود لمثقف موسوعي أو سجين سابق. بدأت باستعماله فأصبح الأرق رفيق أيامي، وصرت من مؤيدي مباحثات السلام. توقفت عن زيارة الأقارب، وازدادت كتب المذكرات في مكتبتي، ولم أعد أبدي رأيا إلا ما ندر. صار الإنسان عندي أغلى من الوطن، وبدأت أشعر بملل عام. أما أكثر ما لفت انتباهي هو أنني أصبحت شاعرا.
Thank you, Gayat. I can picture you in Cairo sitting for hours waiting for your friend and writing this poem. This has always been one of my favorites.
Oh, thank you.
It's in the book Adrenaline. So, how I became. Her grief fell from the balcony and broke into pieces, so she needed a new grief. When I went with her to the market, the prices were unreal, so I advised her to buy a used grief. We found one in excellent condition, although it was a bit big. As the vendor told us, it belonged to a young poet who had killed himself the previous summer. She liked this grief, so we decided to take it. We argued with the vendor over the price, and he said he'd give us an angst dating from the 60s as a free gift if we bought the grief. We agreed, and I was happy with this unexpected angst. She sensed this, and I said, "It's yours." I took it and put it in my bag, and we went off. In the evening, I remembered it and took it out of the bag and examined it closely. It was high quality and in excellent condition despite a half-century of use. The vendor must have been unaware of its value, otherwise he wouldn't have given it to us in exchange for buying a young poet's low-quality grief. The thing that pleased me most about it was that it was an existentialist angst, meticulously crafted and containing details of extraordinary subtlety and beauty. It must have belonged to an intellectual with encyclopedic knowledge or a former prisoner. I began to use it, and insomnia became my constant companion. I became an enthusiastic supporter of peace negotiations and stopped visiting relatives. There were increasing numbers of memoirs in my bookshelves, and I no longer voiced my opinion, except on rare occasions. Human beings became more precious to me than nations, and I began to feel a general ennui, but what I noticed most was that I had become a poet. Sorry for my stumbling. My eyes have gotten terrible in the last years, and just this weekend I went to get glasses. So, but yes,
Oh,
thank
thank
you.
you. This is 14 years old now. Mamma mia.
Yeah, 2013.
Yeah, 13 years old.
Yeah, 13.
Oh,
There's somebody from the audience I would like to ask a question.
yeah.
This is from Stephanie. What Syrian tradition influences your work?
Ooh, yeah. It's thank you, Stephanie, for this question. Actually, but I could see it in two parts. The first one, that Arabic literature is one literature, so it's like Spanish literature or French literature. So 22 Arabic country, but it's one classic language. They have dialect speaking in the street, but books and schools and television, they use the classic. So, so what we call Arabic literature, which is only less than 100 years ago, it's became 22 countries. So yeah, so Arabic literature it's a one part, and it have a lot of tradition because the language is big and the amount of literature is big because it's connected, as I told you before. So the Syrian perspective, and this is here where the things began to be distinguished from each other, because these 22 countries have totally 22 different cultures and backgrounds of these people who speak this language. You could be Kurdish, you could be Armenian, you could be Amazigh, you could be like its background or African. So the Syrian one, it's affected by many things. First, that Syria have great poet in the modern and the contemporary time, and they affect most of the Arabic region. When you are, of course, teenager, you read one of the great poets, Nizar Qabbani. Is like, if for me, I can connect it to, for Germans, like Holderlin, you could say. Yeah, between Holderlin and Heinrich Heine, maybe this kind. It's like a popular and could go to music and like this. And then you have a young poet who died in 1982, alone in Al Muwasa Hospital in Damascus. He was a half deaf, Riyad al-Salih al-Hussein. He affected the poetry a lot. There is Muhammad al-Maghut. They were like the Syrian, to be honest, affected poetry in a very strong way. But the most affected that it's because they were able to do that under this heavy dictatorship. And it's problematic because Syria was one of the countries who experienced democracy. Yeah, like you could say with Lebanon, but the Lebanese one is not real because it's sectarian. The president should be Christian Maronite, the prime minister should be Muslim Sunnite, the head of the parliament should be Muslim Shiite. So it's categorized. While the Syrian, it was a real democracy, and the Syrian people voted twice for a free parliament and twice for a free president when half of Europe was under dictatorship. So the Syrian people experience some kind of exchanging power by election and some kind of freedom of speech. And suddenly, with the help of the American embassy, they make the deal with Hosni Zaim and they catch the power to, so Israel could be the only democracy in the Middle East, and to have a general, they could deal with him that there's no war with Israel and that's the end. So we find ourselves in this heavy situation. This heavy situation even make the poetry more playful and use symbols and metaphors and not a direct way to arrive to what people arrive to in a simple way. And in that time, that poetry was also something unique. So yeah, it affected me in a way or another, and also the memories. You know, Syria, Damascus is a great city. People still behave in a very civilized way that it's annoying because Syria is not the capital of the biggest empire in history anymore. Syria was the capital of the biggest empire in history. It was from Spain to China, and it is 3 times bigger than the Roman Empire, and was only defeated by the Mongolian Empire, which is not, they don't count it because it came big and disappeared very fast without changing the religion and the language of the people. It's the opposite. The Mongolian converted to Islam and like this. So this empire ranked as number one as the biggest and the longest, even if the Abbasi took the capital to Baghdad and the Damascene continue another 350 years in Andalusia. But because it was the capital of the biggest empire, the people still behave in this way. It's long time ago, but they still have this imagination that you could see in a city like in Istanbul or Vienna, where there people think, or Rome, they think, oh, it's still the empire. It's not. There's no, but this, it shaped my life, the nightlife, the drinking, the balancing between disappearing in the prison and be able to say the things without losing your freedom. This schizophrenic situation, it's still shaping me after 17 years in Europe in a free, sorry, in free society. It's still shaping my life. Sometimes I go outside the door and look behind me, and then I remember, oh, I'm in Germany. Then I should look twice.
Sorry.
Not even one.
That's
You use
hilarious.
one only in dictatorship. In Germany, you should look twice. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. Stephanie, as you know, I don't know if you know, but I'm thinking you know that because you interviewed me to for the German radio, there is a relation between my life and my poetry, and it's impossible to distinguish them from each other.
That's just another example that history is still current.
شكرا.
عفوا.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that this feeling of Assyrians living as if they come still from a big empire uh, is just, history is not stagnant, right? It's still current, and I love that sentiment actually. Ibrahim wanted to ask you a question. He didn't want to write it because it would take too long, so we give him the mic.
Yes.
Ibrahim, would you like to ask your question?
Yeah, you need to unsilent.
Okay, hi everyone.
Ibrahim.
Hi, thank you, Lubi, for organizing and facilitating this beautiful event or meeting. And also, I want to thank everyone who just participated in this meeting. Also, I want to thank Ghayath. It was 3 months ago when I discovered one of the best books by Ghayath, I think. لقد احضرت لك يدا مقطوعة. And I heard the collection of nusus and hawamish.
Yeah.
It was really, I think, the best poetry, if I can use poetry, quote unquote, book that I read in this year. And the thing, I think the common thing, even the kind of piece that you even published, الجدلية العاصمة. Also, I saw a thing related to this book, which is like, if I can ask you, which is the question, is like, you always use hand as a metaphor. So where the metaphor coming, if I can ask you. Also, I think the piece that you published in جدلية, you just say like, أنا صاحب قصائد التي تتحدث عن الموت وكأنها تتحدث عن الأمل.
Yeah.
So I was like, for me, the only thing that always stops me from death is hope. So
Yeah.
how death can spoke about the hope
Yeah.
and how it can be replaceable to each other. So I think that's the second question. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, Ibrahim, for these two questions. So the first part, the title in Arabic, لقد أحضرت لك يدا مقطوعة, which is translated to I have brought you a severe. It didn't even work in Arabic. It's not a poetic. But before even I write this book, even in Adrenaline, there is in my dreams, there is this man without hand. And even in my poems before in Adrenaline, there is a man without hand. I think in the Black Milk, it's appeared, and yeah. So, and there's there's cut hands everywhere and like this. So I sent the manuscript to two Syrian therapist friends to read the manuscript and tell me. And the first say that it is my brother who got killed in Syria, and that I have feel that part of my body disappear. And the other, he say, yes, it could be your brother, but also it could be Syria or Palestine, because in the poem, I have brought you Syria, in the new book, you say, I have, one of the title is I have brought you Syria. And one of the line you say, you began with, I have brought you a severed hand. So Syria, severed hand. And he say it could be that it's the losing two countries, Palestine and Syria, and the losing of the losing. But because they mention my brother, Ghassan, who got killed in the 2nd of April 2016 and by Assad regime, and we didn't find his body. And last time I saw him when I left Syria in 2008. So I was already 8 years I didn't see him. So I was missing him a lot. And then he died. And because of him, I decided to honor him. I decided to call the book, I Have Brought You a Severed Hand. And I give the chance for the translators and the book publisher houses in other languages. I told them you could choose any title, but they took it, they use it. So yeah, the other part in the poem, The Capital, which is published in English in Adrenaline, and the poem is about the blood diamond in Antwerp, as you know. It began with this line, what is the capital of Congo, Kinshasa? Or what the capital of Democratic Congo? Like something like that. And the answer was Antwerp. And it's like in a short way, it tell you all the history, how they were stealing and killing this country. In that line, I say, I am أنا صاحب القصائد التي تتحدث عن الحرب وكأنها تتحدث عن الأمل. I am the person who wrote the poems that speaking about war as if they are speaking about hope. Yeah. Yeah, hope. I have, if you see in the new book, there's a poem, the second poem in the book called How Hope Became Green. It's all about hope. And hope is a very problematic thing because it's romantic. And romantic things always lead to death and civil war. A romantic period in history always lead to mass graves and genocide. You don't forget that the fascismo is a romantic idea. The Nazi party was romantic. He want to rebuild. I don't know. Like Trump is like trying to make America great again. Yeah. By the way, America have never been great before, so I don't. You know, but honestly, I don't know what they when they say again, because like yeah, it have never been great. What they mean by great? It was great when they throw atomic bomb in Japan, or when they were never been great. I don't. Yeah, they are interesting. I love America and I love Americans. It's interesting place. You know how much I love America, Luby, and the road trips and yeah,
Yeah.
the juicy hamburgers in the middle of the night, and yeah, California, the Syrian weather. Like, is America was great before? It's only romantic idea. So from this perspective, hope is very romantic things because it's a motivation to continue living, while in reality, we should not continue living in this blue planet. It didn't function anymore.
Wow. That's
I know I love life. And by the way, suicide is not option for me because I'm a believer.
yeah, of course. No, but this hope almost being kind of like a mask. Um or kind of like it alters your perception.
Yeah, but there
You
is
know?
a line. There is a line I was reading lately in the same poem. I should see how Catherine Cobham translated in this poem. It's the last line in the second poem. I want to see how she translated it because it's a very problematic. Yeah, yeah. It's end the poem in this way. Say, oblivion is not to remember. Hope is to remember things that haven't happened. So hope is officially to remember things they didn't happen yet.
Yeah, it's romantic, as you were saying, which is
Yeah, it is actually. It's very problematic. I don't know. But I have a lot of hope to have hope.
Yeah. Michaela from the audience said it's like the selective shame, choosing what to be shameful of and choosing what to romanticize from the past.
I agree. But also, like, I don't blame Germans to be selective as like a unique things. All of us are selective.
Mhm.
So I mean, when I say about the guilt and shame in Germany, yes, they are selective, but most of us are selective in everything. We are biased. It's the we. It's part of our way of thinking and evolution. So we are biased in everything, and we are selective in everything, even if we pretend. Like I have a theory about when I discover that how discrimination work and I call it the watermelon
But
discrimination.
it's not a conspiracy theory, right?
No, 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 no. It's happened with me in Sweden
Yeah.
when I was going in the summer to buy watermelon from the Coop supermarket. And then I discover how racist I am when it's considered to be a watermelon. So they have, in Sweden, the big supermarkets, they have everything. It's like upper middle class. So I find Spanish watermelon, and I was happy. I took one. I say, this because I was missing Syria so much. This Spanish, it's Mediterranean. They are connected with Syria, even if they are far away, by the same sea. So I was happy with it, and then I look, and they were a Greek watermelon. I throw the Spanish, and I took the Greek because it's near from Syria. When the civil war happened in Greek, they didn't go to London or to like they come to Syria. Millions of Greek refugees came to Syria because you cross only the sea. You are in Latakia and Tartus. So this relation, which I don't know later, Europe consider Greek Europe. You understand me? Well, there's no continents.
Selective again. Yeah.
No, no, it's not. There's no continent. Somebody invented continents because he was jealous that Rome and Greek is in Middle East, Mediterranean. They took them and called Europe, and they put us, the Palestinian and the Japanese, and the Yemeni and the Chinese. He called it Asia. How racist is that? And like you understand. But anyway, so I throw the Spanish watermelon and I took the Greek because it's more near to Syria and Palestine. And while I'm moving, and then I saw Turkish watermelon. Turkish have a borders with Syria even. I throw the Greek, I took the Turkish. And while I'm in the Casa paying, and I understand how racist I am, this is discrimination. Why I choose the Turkish? It's because related to my memory. It's true. This is how discrimination works.
Yeah. So it's definitely not conspiracy theory. It's great.
No, 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 no. We born with this discrimination. We need to control it.
Mm.
Yeah.
Does anybody else have a question? Or if you're too shy, you can write it. Otherwise, I'm gonna slowly come to an end. Yeah? Gaia, do you have a question?
Do I have questions? I have many. Yeah, I have many. Uh, there is there's a question in one of Ghassan Kanafani novels. Men Under the Sun, when they try to Palestinians smuggle to Kuwait through the desert from Iraq. And they put them in this tank where it's for water, but they go inside it. And it's so hot. And the people in the borders were very slow making the paper with the drivers. And then he finished and they arrived to Kuwait and open it and they were dead. And he asked the question, why they didn't knock. why we didn't knock, all of us.
Oh.
Why we die in silence? Why we didn't all of us knock the
Mm,
tank? Mm.
Michaela wants to know where she can buy your book in Berlin.
In Schertlude bookstore. And,
Which one?
Schertlude. It's a very good art place and bookstore in Berlin. And
Can you write it down in the chat? So
yes, I can.
Hopscotch used to have it. I think there's also a couple.
Yeah, I think Hopscotch, of course, they have it.
But
Yes.
Hopscotch is closed, but they are having a pop-up at Laden. And I know I've seen it in other places. What about the Buch? What is it called? The Polish-owned bookstore around the corner from She Said can also be. Anyways,
Yeah, but I know that Hopscotch have it and Schertlude have it here where I can put the link. Yes, here. I think this should have.
and
Yeah,
also they can buy them for you from you, I said as well.
yeah,
Directly.
but let me see. Let me put it
That's right.
officially.
Desire Lines
Okay.
also
Now
has.
I find the link for. Yeah, they have.
Thank you.
They have my book in several languages, and
Mm.
here I will put it in the link direct for these several languages. Yeah.
Okay.
We are in a capitalist world, so if you read the book and you don't like it, you have 28 days to send the book back to the Silicon Valley, and then Wall Street will give you the money back. In 17 years, you will be a refund all your money.
Okay, I'm going to I want to close I want to end with a line from your poem Recycling Death, because I think it speaks not only to poetry but to a life lived through poetry. Abu Tamam says, "Immigrate and be renewed." So I stare at the 12 centuries between us and remember eternity. Poets travel through space, and poetry travels through time. I want to say thank you to Ghayath for your generosity and honesty in spending this evening with us. And thank you, obviously, to everyone else who joined for the very first Davenport talk. And I hope tonight offered a glimpse not only into poetry, but into the life behind it.
Thank you, Lubi, and thank you everyone who attend, and forgive my frank way of saying things.